fade with time, but the story of the vanishing passenger refuses to disappear. It has been told on highways, lonely country roads, and even in bustling cities. At its heart is always the same chilling scenario. A driver encounters a stranger who needs a ride, only for that person to vanish into thin air before reaching their destination. One of the most famous versions comes from the United States during the mid 20th century. A young man was driving home late at night when he saw a girl standing by the side of the road. She was dressed in white, shivering in the cold, and he felt compelled to stop. She quietly asked for a ride to her home just a few miles away. The journey was uneventful, but when the car pulled up to the address, she was gone. The passenger seat was empty. Confused, the man knocked on the door, only to be told by the homeowners that their daughter had died years earlier in an accident along that very road. Stories like these echo across cultures. In Japan, drivers speak of pale women who ask for rides in rural areas, disappearing before the car reaches the next town. In parts of Eastern Europe, the phantom passenger is said to warn drivers of upcoming danger, vanishing just before a bend in the road or a collapsed bridge. Some treat these apparitions as restless spirits reliving their final journey, while others believe they are protective presences trying to save lives. What makes the mystery compelling is how consistent the accounts are. People who have never met, living in different countries, describe the same unnerving experience. A passenger who appears human, interacts briefly, and then vanishes without explanation. Skeptics argue it's just folklore, shaped by imagination and fear. But believers point to countless reports spanning decades, suggesting there is something deeper at work. The vanishing passenger has become a symbol of how thin the boundary may be between the living and the dead. Whether seen as a ghostly hitchhiker or a warning spirit, the story raises an unsettling question. If you offered a ride to a stranger late at night, would you know if they were truly alive? That's part one. The legend of the vanishing passenger is not confined to modern roads. Historical records reveal that stories of spectral travelers date back centuries, long before the invention of the automobile. In the age of horse-drawn carriages, there were already tales of passengers who appeared suddenly along rural paths, requesting to be taken to a destination, only to vanish before arrival. Old journals from the 18th century describe phantom riders, who seemed real enough to touch, yet dissolved into the night when confronted. These early accounts show that the phenomenon is older than the machines we drive. It is tied to the act of travel itself. Group encounters make the mystery even harder to dismiss. In one chilling case from the 1970s, a bus carrying workers home after a late shift picked up a woman standing alone on the roadside. She climbed aboard silently, and several passengers swore they saw her sit near the back. Yet by the time the bus reached the next stop, she was gone. Dozens of witnesses later confirmed the same story. The woman had been there, and then she wasn't. Incidents like this suggest that the vanishing passenger is not always a private hallucination, but an event that can affect many people at once. In other cultures, the phantom passenger takes on a darker role, not as a lost soul, but as a death omen. In parts of Ireland, legends speak of a hooded figure who accepts rides only to disappear at crossroads. Locals believe that anyone who encounters this shadowy rider will soon face a great misfortune, sometimes even death. Similar beliefs exist in parts of Africa, where spectral passengers are said to appear before disasters, their presence acting as a warning that cannot be ignored. One particularly disturbing story comes from Eastern Europe during the Second World War. Soldiers transporting supplies through a remote region reported picking up a frail-looking man who asked for food and warmth. He sat silently, his head bowed, until one soldier realized they could see the road through his body. Panic spread, and within moments, the figure vanished. That night, their convoy was ambushed, and many did not survive. Those who did swore the ghostly passenger had been a sign of what was to come. These darker interpretations reveal a haunting possibility that the vanishing passenger is not always a victim of tragedy, but sometimes a harbinger of it. Whether they are restless spirits, protective guides, or warnings of doom, their presence on the road has one effect in common. They leave those who encounter them questioning the line between life and death. Some believe the vanishing passenger can be explained by psychology. Drivers on long, lonely stretches of road are often exhausted, their minds vulnerable to tricks of perception. In this state, the brain can create vivid hallucinations, making it seem as though a stranger is truly there. Sleep paralysis, déjà vu, and the tendency of the human mind to find patterns in the dark may account for some encounters. But even skeptics admit that hallucinations rarely explain why multiple witnesses share the same experience at the same time. Science offers other theories. Certain stretches of road are known to produce unusual electromagnetic fields capable of interfering with the brain's electrical activity. This could trigger visions, auditory hallucinations, and the overwhelming sense of a presence. Paranormal researchers suggest that these natural forces might act like recordings, replaying traumatic events of the past in ghostly form. A fatal accident on a road could leave behind an imprint destined to repeat itself whenever conditions align. More speculative theories take the legend into the realm of physics. Some argue that the vanishing passenger could be evidence of parallel worlds brushing against our own. If dimensions overlap briefly, travelers from another reality might appear as hitchhikers or riders, only to disappear when the boundaries shift back. To the witnesses, it looks like a ghost. In reality, it may be a glimpse of someone who exists, but not entirely in our world. Others go further, proposing that these passengers are not spirits of the dead at all, but entities feeding on human fear. By taking on the form of vulnerable travelers, they ensure we welcome them in, lowering our guard before slipping away. The fear, confusion, and obsession that follow may be the very energy they seek. This could explain why the stories endure across continents and centuries, as if these encounters are not isolated, but part of a larger pattern. Yet even with science, folklore, and speculation, the mystery refuses to fade. Technology has brought us dash cams, GPS logs, and digital records, but the vanishing passenger still eludes capture. A face might appear in the rearview mirror, a voice might be heard on an audio file, but proof always slips away like smoke. Just as the passenger vanishes before reaching their destination, so too does the evidence vanish before skeptics can dismiss it entirely. For those who have lived through the experience, explanations don't matter. What remains is the memory of the seat shifting under unseen weight, the sound of a voice in the darkness, and the empty space where a person should have been. The ride continues, but the question lingers: who or what was really there? That's part 4, our 3K characters. Now the story has a full arc. Part 1, classic legends and cultural roots. Part 2, modern sightings and dashcam accounts. Part 3, historical and ominous encounters. Part 4, psychology, science, and interdimensional theories. Do you want me to wrap this into a Part 5 conclusion where I tie it all together with a chilling closing that leaves the audience unsettled?